All right, welcome everybody to the next Procession episode. We're so excited about this. So, like our old Procession shows, or our first Procession show, what this actually is we're going to be taking some time to review the things that we've kind of already talked about through this procession, from this procession back to the first one. So the previous, I think, 6 or 7 episodes. So we're super excited about that. So thanks for joining us. And so yeah, let's kind of start getting into it. Now, of course, we'll go ahead and start. We'll start introducing everybody. So give me just a second while I pull up the rest of this information. It'll take me just a moment. But yeah, I'll go ahead and throw it off to my first, my partner in crime, Anthony Dickinson. How you doing this evening, brother? Shabbat shalom. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, definitely. Thank y'all for being here. And we got Daryl Lee with us here as well. How you doing this evening, brother? Yeah, yeah. He's a great dude. So, all his teachings definitely changed a lot of our lives. So we can definitely be appreciative for it. Oh, dang. Okay, sorry. It looks like I did not give sound. Give me 1 second, Anthony. I'm gonna have you say that again. Sorry, everybody. Here we go, Anthony. Throw it off to you again, brother.
Wait, what I gotta say again?
I'm
Shabbat
sorry.
shalom.
Yeah, it was muted, but go ahead and say hi to everyone. Sorry about that, Johnny. Thank you for that, everyone though in chat.
Yeah, Shabbat shalom, everybody, and yeah, I'm kind of excited for this episode. Uh, we're gonna it's gonna be covering what we've already covered before, in a sense, but I think we may have a little new information to share. So stick around. We might get into some pretty juicy stuff.
Oh yeah. And sorry to do this to you as well again, Daryl, but no one could hear you, so go ahead and say hi to everyone again.
Okay, hi everybody, and Shabbat Shalom. And I was just saying how I just watched that Rob Skiba presentation, and that was awesome. It never gets old, and it welled up and inside me, and um, made me made me think about dealing with some things that I'd overlooked. And yeah, I'm like, I'm gonna have to watch it again after I deal with that, because there'll probably be some more stuff I'll deal with.
Hmm.
Awesome. Anyhow, Shabbat Shalom. Love y'all. Good to be here.
Absolutely. Awesome. All right. Well, how you doing this evening, Frankie B?
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I hope you have had a great New Year's Eve, and I hope you're enjoying your New Year's Day and your Shabbat. It's a double blessing. It's Shabbat and the New Year Day. So I just hope it was really relaxing and just filled with love and peace.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for that. And yeah, I think it's kind of cool how like Talmuds happen on Christmas and how we do in the procession, like ending it all up and kind of starting it all again. So yeah, definitely. We're super excited about that. And thank you for being here as always. And then we got two other people who joined us today. We got in here it says I am your Copernicus, but this is plain truth. Um, Travis is joining with us today. How you doing this evening, brother?
I'm well. I'm well. Thanks for having me on the show, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know if you checked out us any of our shows before, but it's a pretty cool type of show because it's more of a free-flowing thing. Typically, or it's a panel thing where it's not just one person's perspective, and we all have different opinions and thoughts on different parts of either scripture or like the world as it is. So it's really cool to have all those different perspectives, and we're always glad when someone else joins in and adds their perspective, because we're all looking for those puzzle pieces so we can figure this thing out together. So yeah, awesome. Thanks for being here. And then we got a guest that is every now and then, but definitely an OG to the community with us. How you doing this evening, Nick?
I'm good. I'm good. Shalom, blessings, peace to everybody. Yeah, no, I'm excited to kick off this new year, and just wanted to hang out and listen to what's being talked about.
Awesome. Well, of course, you're always welcome. Awesome. All right. Well, before we go get into it, I just want to say a few things. Thank you all for being here, whether you're live or watching it later. We want to shout out Chris and Liz from Take on the World. Again, thank you so much for letting us use your platform and speaking to your audience. We surely do love you blessing us that way. It definitely has helped us, and it'll continue to help us, and we hope we help you as well. And then I want to say, if you haven't yet, subscribe, like, comment. All those things help us a lot. And we're all about gathering puzzle pieces here so that we can share them together and grow. And iron sharpens iron. And that does require heat, friction, and the removal of material. So, sometimes there are heated debates. Sometimes there is, that division of ideas. But what we aren't divisive about is that we're all brothers and sisters in this place we call home on this plane of Earth. So awesome. All right. Well, let's kind of start getting into the main topic of it. So in a procession episode, it's kind of like a Jubilees episode where there's a free-flowing conversation. However, it's a little bit dialed in, where we're going to focus on mostly the stuff that we've covered since the last procession. So, and what that been, if we could kind of give me a second to pull it up. So we've had the past 3 episodes, not including, obviously special episodes, but special guest episodes. The last 3 have been on Nimrod. And we'll definitely be talking about that man or one of his names during the show for sure. But we'll also be talking about some other stuff. So I'm excited about that. And then, so our past 3, let me just pull this up. Almost done, guys. Thank you for your patience. Okay, so we did 12. I'm actually going to go all the way back to the first procession episode. Where are we? There we go. So since the first procession episode, it's pretty cool because we've actually it was ever before we were on Take on the World. So if you haven't checked that on, check out the Enclosed Cosmology YouTube channel to watch our last procession episodes. They're actually really fun episodes, so I definitely I suggest checking those out. But anyway, so we had our procession, and then I had the yellow chair, my presentation about deception. Definitely go check that out. And then the one right after that was Take on the World. That was so awesome when we got that and was able to start streaming on that stream. It was just so cool because we got a whole nother audience, and we found many brothers and sisters from there. So that's why I always want to shout Chris and Liz for what they did. And then we had Witsit Gets It on. If you haven't checked out him, Witsit Gets It. He's a amazing activist. He's already traveled around the U.S. one time. I think they're maybe going to do another tour with all 3 of them this time. And he just goes around flat smacking and spreading the truth, throughout our nation. So definitely also not check that out. It's a great episode as well. And then we had one of our Jubilees, and then we had our Rob Skiba, the testimony to celebrate his life. If y'all haven't checked those out, the testimonies and the way that this legend, affected so many people, it's literally unreal. And he's still doing that. He's still changing people's lives, even when he's having his deep rest in Sheol. So, anyways, and then we talked about cleanse. That was the whole part about the flood happening. We had that flat fellow on again. He talked about sonic booms. That was a great episode. We went on to talk about episode 8, the covenant. That was talking about the difference of the covenants, if any, that exists within Scripture. And then we talked about that kind of thing being reestablished. And then we had one of my favorite episodes, which was a special guest with not only from Sean and Wes from West Plays Music, as well as Kingdom in Context. So we celebrated their first season of Uncommon Ground, and it was really cool to talk about all those different episodes and listen to some of the awesome music, and it was just really fun to dote on those guys for all the amazing stuff that they do. And then we had a third Jubilees. Just a quick little thing about Jubilees. We'll have those every seventh episode. That's a way for us to kind of get away from the main topic and kind of just talk about anything we want to talk about. And then after that, we did again Gilgamesh, or Nimrod, Gilgamesh. We had Randy L. Smith talking about his books of Constellation and Lifting the Veil. That was really awesome, and we definitely have got those books on our list to get because they were very interesting, at least from what what Randy shared. And then last Saturday was the Christmas one. That was Talmuz. We showed how Christmas is directly related and can be traced all the way back to Babylon in various ways. And that brings us here to Procession 2, where we're going to talk about all the kind of things that that I had just mentioned, and get ready to move on to kind of the next episode, the next kind of change in the show. So super excited about that. Now I know that was long-winded, but I thank y'all for your patience. But let's get into it. No more rambling. Let's just get into it. Now I'm gonna throw it off to anyone. Does anyone else have something particular that I think Anthony might that have they particularly want to kind of get the conversation started with?
Oh, well, I don't know if it was actually a conversation starter, but our friend Travis has been capturing the ether band for years on his channel, The Plain Truth. And just the other day, I was listening to him, and he was talking about the stars of Orion and the constellation Orion. I'd like for him to kind of cover what he was talking about a little bit, and maybe we could discuss that a little bit.
Yeah, so I think what's going to be helpful is if I can share my screen and show the video that I put together.
Is it a video that's online, or is it just in your like?
It's on my YouTube channel.
Okay. What's the name of the episode?
Let's see. I can put let me copy the link and
Okay.
I'll just put it in the.
Perfect. Yeah, and I can just
Yeah,
screen
yeah.
share it myself.
So give me 1 second.
Oh, no
Yeah,
worries. Take your time.
That's a good point. Let's see. So I'm going to put it in ECF live chat.
Perfect.
Okay.
And Travis, I've been following you for years, brother. You do some pretty awesome work with the cameras and stuff, man. And next time you get around Lake Pontchartrain, man, give me a shout, man. I come down there and meet like an hour and a half away. That's where I did my testing too.
I did my testing. Actually showed it on the Wits It Gets It thing. I did a 3 foot observation, 3 foot off the ground observation on the lake of Bear Lake in Utah, and it's 20 miles long, and I could literally see cars driving on the other side, like plain as day. So really
were
cool.
you at Bear Lake with Shelley Lewis and all those guys, or was that a different?
No, this is a different time. I actually went there for the Feast of Tabernacles. It was in September.
Okay.
So, but anyways, let's go ahead and pull this up on screen. Does it have audio that I need to share?
You don't have to play. No, it
Okay.
just has music. So
Okay.
if you want to go to 32 seconds.
Okay. Give me a second. I'm gonna share it. There we go. Get this big.
Let me just kind of talk a little bit while you're doing that. So what happened was I went to California, where I grew up. My grandmother lives in the foothills in Southern California, so she's far removed from any of the city lights, so I just had a beautiful open sky. And I normally do my observations on the Pacific Ocean, shooting out toward the Anacapa Island, the Channel Islands. And the weather was just so poor, the visibility there wasn't, it didn't make for good filming. So I spent all of my time, pretty much every night, shooting the sky. And so, what you've got right now up on the screen is the beginning of Orion's ascent. So right above the 119 degrees, 8 minutes and 60 seconds, you'll see the three stars that are coming up. That's Orion's belt. Okay. And I have two cameras that are side by side. They're both set up side by side. And this one is camera 1. Camera 2 is to the right, and I overlapped the field of view in the camera so that when I put the two videos together, it was like a panorama. And so why don't you push play, and we'll just watch the star trails with Orion from camera 1, and then it'll go to camera 2. Yeah, those are the yeah, I don't know if that's real time or if I'm looking at a delay on that, but yeah, the three.
Perfect. Yeah, and I started playing it, so we got those 3 stars coming up.
Oh, I'm on delay then.
Oh, let me do it like this for you. I'm gonna restart this, guys. Give me 1 second so he can see it and narrate it. If you go into EFC, like in the stream that we are, you'll just click on my screen, and
Okay.
boom, and you should be able to see me live.
Yeah. Good. Okay.
All right, you got it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. So it's these 3 stars he's talking about right here, and we'll go ahead and
Right.
play this. And you can see it on yours, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Watching it. Now, just for some details, if you want to push pause. Now, to the left and above Orion, that is the northern celestial rotation. So all of those stars, you can see that they have a convex arc. If you watch this, if you look at the stars, you can see that they actually curve up.
Mm-hmm.
There's a curve to them. Okay, so that's the northern celestial rotation. Orion is there in the middle, and then below you can see the convex stars rotating the opposite way. That's the southern rotation. Yep. Now, Orion is the buffer between the northern and the southern rotations. It is going to remain that way. That's the way it is. It divides. Yep. It just stays straight. Now it does follow an arc itself, but it's like I said, it's a buffer between the two. So I just wanted to make that clarification for anyone who's not familiar with the way the sky clock works. And again, this is the left camera 1, or you see Sandra 1 there. This is Sandra 2.
And these are like what, like 2 feet apart, or like right next to each other?
Right, yeah, right next to each other. Right next to each other. Now, right just below the text, you're gonna see Orion's belt coming in now. Yep, right there. Okay. Now, these are both of them. Okay, if you want to push pause real quick. Okay. Now, what I did was I basically just turned on my camera, and so they are both at the same setting with the same focal length. Now, what happens is, and you can see the if the top frame on the right, you can see the tree that's lit up by the light.
Oh, right here.
Right there. Yep. Okay. Now, if you go down to the bottom frame, you can see that same tree. Okay. So what would happen is if I overlaid those two images, they would not match. There's a I don't know why they don't have the same magnification or the same size, but what you're going to see more importantly is that Orion in the top image is going to be at about a 45-degree angle. And when Orion comes into the bottom image, it's going to be at a more severe angle. The angles are not going to match, even though both cameras are opened at the same setting and are basically level to one another. So if you push play, you'll see
Oh, nope. Oh, it's right here.
yeah. You see how they're coming out? You see how the angles don't match?
Yeah, that's super weird.
So now I put it now I overlaid them, or not overlaid. I set them side by side now, so you can actually see that. I guess it's an airplane on the. If you want to push pause real quick, in the left image on the right, you can see this dashed line.
Oh, yeah.
Right. I'm guessing that is probably an airplane. You can see it in the right image too, the dashed line. But you'll notice that the right image has a lower degree angle than the left image. The left image has a higher degree angle, even with that. And these are right next to each other.
Right quick, are they both the same type camera?
Yep, both the same Nikon P900s. Yep.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah, because you look at that tree that's lit up, and it's like, that's only really like panned over, like talking about the camera itself, not like the feet of degrees, but that's only like panned over like 3 or 4 inches, like looking
Right.
another direction.
Right.
And that is pretty drastic change on the like the angles and the of the lines that the stars are leaving behind. It's pretty
Yeah.
crazy.
Well, I kind of have a different opinion than most now as to what stars actually even are.
Hmm. But before, I'd love to get into that as well. But let's keep going with this.
So you can see my question at the bottom of the screen. Does everyone see the sky under their own dome? And now I'm going to overlay. I think I'm going to try to match up the trees or something. I can't remember how I did it.
Totally.
Okay, so here's what I did. I had to angle the right frame. If you can see that the tree there is cockeyed on the right,
Hmm.
I had to angle the frame, and still nothing matched up. Everything just crisscrossed. And now look at how high I had to change that degree of angle on the right frame.
And just can someone be clear, like what does this signify, the differences, Copernicus?
Well, I think we're getting to that.
Well, I simply asked the question a few seconds ago in the video itself. Does everyone see the sky from their own perspective? So both of these cameras, if you think about both of these cameras being two different people, then the left camera would be me and the right camera would be Anthony, and he's seeing what the right camera sees, and I'm seeing what the left camera sees, and they don't match up. So he is in his own frame of reference, even though he's just standing right next to me. So I don't know what the answer is. All I'm saying is that there is a strange anomaly here with how these two cameras that are level, because the P900, when you can set up on the viewfinder screen, you can set up a virtual horizon, so it'll tell you when you're level. If you're off, it'll be cockeyed and yellow, and then when you're level, it'll be green. So both of these cameras were set up level right next to each other. In my opinion, there should be no reason why there is a drastic change of degree in the field of
Only a
view.
little bit. Like you're talking about like what I would think you would see compared to what this video is showing would literally be just like a little off skewed. Because you're talking about the cameras are right next to each other. So again, with the camera, like you can see how he in this picture he met the two trees together, but you still have like a good amount of section. So he didn't move over that much with that other camera. Like you can see how it's like on the right side there's a way smaller block than on the left side because it's overlapped. But yeah, the angles change drastically. That's kind of weird.
Okay,
Hey,
so
hey,
yeah, go ahead.
real quick question. And I know you're going to comment on what Vader said, but Fear in the chat asked, "Are the cameras at the same focal length or zoom?"
Correct. That's what I was saying. All I did was turn them on. So they are at the opening setting that the camera naturally opens up to. So what I did in my other videos, because I knew people were going to ask these questions, so I have numerous videos in this playlist. I show you in the daytime that I've got the cameras set up next to each other. I take a still shot click from both cameras in their opening settings. So they both have, I can show you the metadata on my files that they both have the same focal length. One is not zoomed in and the other one's at a different zoom length. They are both at the same zoom length. So yes, they're all set up exactly
And
the
Fear
same.
brought up something really good and that's kind of like what I was thinking. He says it's almost like they're acting when you're going back and forth between covering your left
Right?
eye and your right eye.
Yeah.
It's almost like
That's
it's
it.
shifting over to the right or to the left depending on which eye you're looking at.
Well, that's interesting too. But then if you look at the image that we have right now and you see that long white line that is in the left image below Orion's belt, right there, right? That is the star Sirius, okay? Now, go to the very tip of that, right where your mouse is, right there. Now, right to the right of that is a little dashed line. That is the same star in the second camera. So if you push play, you'll see how it. See that? And then there you got the Orion's belt right there too. But I've got, like I said, numerous videos in the playlist, and I titled the series of Orion's Belt by Orion's Belt 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I think maybe 6 of them. But I try to be as thorough as possible in each of the videos to try to show you from different perspectives how I'm setting up my camera and how you guys can, understand the way I was shooting. But it's a very, very interesting anomaly in my opinion.
Yeah, that's very weird. That's like a drastic change for like 3 inches. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now you would expect like the guy was saying, FEAR, by covering up one eye and the other eye. That is a bit of a parallax shift, but I wouldn't expect a change in the degree.
Yeah.
Right.
It
Yeah.
wouldn't. It wouldn't. Literally, like it's similar to that. I think that is like probably the best kind of example that you could use. But it's even crazier. It'd be like if you closed your left eye, like you were looking at like looking straight ahead at a brick wall. And you have your left eye open and it's straight, and then you open your right eye, and all of a sudden
Right.
now that brick wall is
Yeah.
the ground
Yeah.
is now at a 45-degree angle.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It's so abstract. When I was like, I didn't even expect this, right? I just went out and I was trying to make a panorama. So I was just going to overlay them and think that it was going to transition from one to the next, smooth as butter, right? So when it happened, I'm like, what is going on? Why? Like, I thought I had done something wrong. So the next night, I did the same thing. I'm like, okay, setting up my camera. It's all level. This is level. Good, good. We're good. Click. And then the next day, looked at it again. I'm like, it happened again. So then what I did the next day is I started out in the 8 o'clock was when Orion was coming up over the horizon. So I started shooting at 8 o'clock. And the star trails take 150 minutes to film. So then I went back out around, I don't know, 11, midnight or whenever I went back out. And then I switched cameras. I put the right camera on the left and the left camera on the right to see that, to see if it was maybe a camera issue. But again, it happened the same way.
Yeah, that's weird. So you even switched the position of the cameras and it didn't change anything.
Well, yeah, not the position in terms
Well,
of
not
their...
I'm just saying you
Yeah,
switched
yes.
camera 1 to camera 2's position, camera
Yes.
2 to camera 1.
Yep.
That's very interesting. Have you kind of dug into it a little bit deeper, or like have you came up with any things that you think might be going on, or are you kind of just dumbfounded?
No, I'm absolutely dumbfounded.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Well, thanks for sharing that. All those in the chat as well as us. I really hope y'all dig into that because there's obviously something there because it's definitely not what you would ever expect to see. So,
Well,
yeah.
the thing that we can do is if people have two cameras to try and do this
Like
as well.
duplicate it. Yeah.
Yeah. If you set yourself up and you make sure that both cameras are both level, they're both right next to each other as close as you can get them or whatever, and then you've got the the field of view overlapping each other to make a panorama, I'm going to make the prediction that your right camera is going to have that drop in angle as well.
Now, this would be another interesting thing. Have you thought about maybe changing the angles, like looking more to the left or looking more to the right as an example, and seeing if that changes it?
Do you mean if I were to angle the cameras away from each other at a more severe angle?
No, not necessarily, but let's say like they're both looking straight right now. You had them look to the left, let's say 5 inches, or look to the right 5 inches, or whatever. Just change the face that the direction in proportion with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Just to see if you can kind of get any other different effects other than the angle that you're kind of looking at. Because that would be kind of interesting to see if there's like a less or more severe, severe angle,
Right.
depending on which way you're looking. Just a thought.
Right. Yeah. No. What I wanted to do, obviously, at this point, like 3 days into it, wish that I had 10 cameras because then I would have just, I would have done that with 10 cameras, 1 camera, 2, 3, 4, and then it would have been a full circle. You know what I mean? So then I could have looked at camera 1 and camera 5. Camera 5 would have been at a more severe angle outward, right? At least that's what I hear you saying, and that's the only way. But no, since I only had 2 cameras, I think that I pretty much always kept them just where they are overlapping.
No, I'm not. Okay, sorry. No, maybe it was a little confusion. So, like right now, let's say they're looking straight, right? So they're still looking straight, but let's shift them to where they're looking straight to the left. So instead of the angle that you have straight on, I'm just saying like for instance, camera 2 is to the right of camera 1. Well, what if I don't know how to really explain it. So you're like looking at one part of the sky. Like for instance, you're looking at Orion directly, but what if you shifted over, looking both cameras shifted both over looking a different direction?
Okay.
Then so instead of that tree being, let's say the middle point, the tree on the very right is the focal middle point.
I get you. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, well, you know what? That would have been a great idea at the time, but I didn't think about it.
Yeah, no worries. I'm just saying, like, food for thought. Like, maybe
Sure,
try it because
for
it would be
next time.
interesting to see if you're looking like, let's say, against the rotation of the stars, and then with the rotation of the stars, if that perspective change would increase or decrease, or if it would just stay the same. That would be interesting to see.
Yeah. I get you.
All right, and then someone else, I think it was Frankie, was gonna say something. Go ahead and ask her. Say what you're gonna say, whoever that was.
Nah, it wasn't me.
Was it
It was
Nick?
Anthony.
Oh, Anthony.
No, it was
Yeah,
Anthony.
okay,
Anthony
no,
has
I had.
a theory on the stars.
Oh no, it was Nick. Go
I
ahead,
got
Nick.
a question. I got a question. Does Anthony, you want to say something, Anthony?
No, I wasn't saying anything.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So David Weiss has pointed out the phenomenon of like how, at least theoretically, everyone has like a personal, kind of the whole PAD, personal atmospheric dome, where everyone like the where the sun is actually is like different for everyone, and you can't really triangulate the position of the sun properly because you just, the more you do it from multiple different areas, like the more off it is. I don't know if you ever come across that with the sun and the moon, Copernicus, because it seems like a little similar to what you're getting at here with the positions being considerably off when they shouldn't be.
Yeah, I did try to film the sun with the solar filters, and it just didn't work out very well because I was zoomed in on it, so there wasn't really a frame of reference to hold a ground based reference point. But thinking back on it, I think I could have done that with the moon because the light wouldn't have been as bright and severe. So I would have had the left camera, tracking the moon, the right camera tracking the moon, and I would almost make the prediction again that would show the same effect. But I was just so caught up in filming the stars, I didn't even think about doing the moon. Didn't even think about it. But yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Oh, like use the moon kind of as like a background object.
No, try to treat the moon like the stars, and track it,
Oh,
and see, if the moon would show the same
because
kind of
kind of
deviation.
because kind of what he made me think when he asked that was if you had put the moon in the background with the star shadow, with the star trails, and
Hmm.
see when it went to that panorama, if it all start changes its direction too, which you assume it would since everything else would.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
I want to ask something right quick. This may be off topic, but I didn't really get to watch the video, and I didn't know exactly what y'all was seeing. Uh, but my question is, would it make that type of a difference if the stars are pretty close to us, like say 30 miles, 10 miles?
Well, here's my running hypothesis right now. So we're told in the heliocentric model that there are about 7 layers of the atmosphere, right? The troposphere, the mesosphere, the thermosphere.
Yeah,
Um, and if you think about it, there are 7 wandering stars: the sun, the moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Saturn, and Jupiter. Okay, that's 7. It's my opinion that the reason why we can have two rotating two celestial rotations is because they are in different layers of the atmosphere. So the stars, in my opinion, like say for instance, we have a brighter star, that's on a closer layer of the atmosphere. If we have a smaller star that looks farther away, it's on a higher uh, atmosphere farther away. But they're all overlaid. If you remember in middle school or high school, when you have your science biology book and you've got the human body, you've got those different layers of acetate, and you can peel back the skin, and then you've got the muscles, and then you peel off the muscles, and then you've got the bones, and you've got the respiratory, you've got all of that, right? So if you think about the sky that way, that they are all overlapped and they all move in conjunction with one another. So when a baller will say that the only way that you can explain to have two celestial rotations is on a globe, I say no. It's very possible that the sky has different layers to it, and the one rotation is in a layer, and another rotation is in another is in another layer. That's very possible for me.
And would you say that that video you just showed throws doubt into the globe model because it's showing right there, like, hey, we're seeing possibly two different like rotations like right by each other, as opposed to the whole, like, the stars turn a different direction in
Right.
the northern versus the
Right.
southern hemisphere type thing?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. And
Interesting.
yeah, and just real quick, I don't believe that being on a spherical surface would create a circular pattern in the sky. I don't believe that that would be what we would have even if the Earth were a globe. I believe that the stars would all move in a linear um, visual presentation. Like if you did a star trail and the sky was just simply, um, we can't do that. So the thing is like one of the problems that the heliocentric model has is that you cannot reduplicate the heliocentric model on a small scale. You have to have everything as gigantic, right? You can't demonstrate an atmosphere moving with the Earth because you'd have to recreate the Earth itself. It would have to be that big. So no one can do that. Well, that's a problem in science. If you can't reduplicate something in physics on a small scale, then it's not real. It can't be done. It's not real. So my point is that if you had a sixth grader or somebody who did a science project and they tried to recreate the star trails by modeling a globe in a small scale and they spun the globe with a camera on it, all of the stars would move in a straight line. They would never curve ever.
Well,
It's almost like we have a firmament above us.
Wow, you think?
seven or seven of them.
Right.
Well, it's kind of funny that you brought up the seven because that actually thought in Anthony too, because I don't know if you know who Sean from Kingdom and Context is, but he believes like from Scripture can show how there is seven firmament layers. So it's interesting that you came to that same number through a different way.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is pretty cool. Well, one kind of I want to kind of share my perspective on this star parallax when the cameras were sitting side by side. If that star was closer than what the heliocentric model claims, do like closing one eye and then closing the other and opening that that blink test thing, that would work a lot more than if it was billions of light years away or whatever, right? Shouldn't that be true? And I'm just guessing here.
I think I understand what you're saying, but we don't see parallax with the stars, right? So, I mean, that's one of their um, metaphysical explanations. They had to make the stars so far away because we don't see parallax. So and which is interesting because that seems to me to contradict what just happened in the first week of December when there was a full lunar eclipse in Antarctica. So in Antarctica, below Argentina, right? Everything south of Argentina had a full-on lunar eclipse. But in North America, nothing. There was no eclipse. So that means then there is drastic parallax. You're telling me then if I got in an airplane and flew down, I would be changing my position so much that I'm moving the moon. I'm moving whatever is in front of the moon. I happen to think it was Mars, but I'm changing parallax with the moon so that whatever is in front of the moon, I'm now making that parallax happen. That's crazy, in my opinion.
Just food for thought about the solar eclipse in the southern hemisphere. I don't know if you got to see Sean's last video on what is actually causing the solar eclipse. And according to Scripture, and according to what a lot of people's film like Crow 777 there's actually possibly a floating city that is moving in front of the sun to make that little bitty black dot in the middle of it. Like we see with our naked eye kind of thing. It's a little bitty black dot, and that's what they call the Eye of Ra, and how many, all the depictions of it throughout the world, different cultures and everything. And what he was saying made a lot of sense. Is as far as looking at it through a scriptural point of view, is that thing passing in front of the sun is not the moon at all, but where the devil lives.
Well, and like that's a good kind of thing. Like, I'm glad that you brought that up because he was talking and thinking, saying that like I think that it's Mars. Don't you think it's very interesting that in it you never see, like, okay, for instance, any day of the week or during the season in which it's possible, you can clearly see the moon in the sky even if it's like waning where it's just a crescent moon. You can still clearly see it in the sky.
Right.
But why, when we have these celestial events, why don't you see the moon slowly making its way? It's like, definitely with the solar eclipse, it's like you see the sun, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this black object just starts getting in front of the sun.
Right.
And so it's kind of weird, obviously, that not only that's a thing, but that um, but back to what Anthony was saying, that it was kind of cool. Anthony showed, Sean showed this kind of model of this sphere, and showing how, like, if you have the heat X amount, higher inside or lower inside of this sphere, how you could cause it to raise or sink, an elevation depending on that. So if you haven't checked that out, it was really interesting. But I think that so you were saying that it's Mars. You think Mars is why we have the both eclipses, or just solar, or just lunar?
Well, the last lunar eclipse was red,
Uh-huh.
and I believe the previous one earlier in the year as well was red. And then I remember filming one back in 2019 that was red. So I just started thinking, well, Mars is red, and if it's just simply a light, an
Mm.
orb up there that
Then
is
it would
moving
cast
through the
its
sky,
shadow.
and it pass, yeah, and if it goes in front, then that's why it's red.
Because it casts that red light onto it. That's really interesting. Sean was also showing how, like, those solar eclipses only happen on a new moon when the moon is not visible in the sky.
Hmm.
Um, that I don't know. It's pretty weird. He he was kind of saying, showing it was like, hey, like, their God is still here, and then you connect that to you can literally connect that black sun iconography literally to every pagan culture and religion, mystery religion in the world. They all worship or have some type of symbol that symbolizes the black sun.
Right, and
Listen,
that's also why Orion, the constellation Orion, is named Orion. It's named after that same god. Uh, However, it's interesting that you show that the constellation Orion is doing something fairly different than all the rest of it.
yeah, Orion. Like I said, there is an arc in the sky that Orion follows, but it doesn't follow the southern rotation, and it doesn't follow the northern rotation. So what's really interesting, I just put another link in the ECF live chat that shows a star trail and then just simply a night sky, which is what we would see with our naked eye because we don't see star trails with our naked eye, right? So what happens with watching the sky with your naked eye, you cannot see that there are two rotations. You cannot see that there's a southern rotation and a northern rotation. The sky just simply moves in uniformity. The only way that you would ever find out, in my opinion, the only way that if you're going to go back hundreds of even thousands of years because they didn't have cameras, is if you map the sky yourself. because then when you map the sky, you're going to see that the star is at a different angle. But when you look at it with your naked eye, you can't see that happening.
Yeah, totally. So here, this is kind of a little bit a different subject. We had previously talked about it before. I don't think I'm not sure if I showed it on stream. I think I did. But anyways, so what I was kind of speculating is if you ever go watch, I played that video for you by the way. But if you go watch like, let's see here, nighttime airplane. What is that called when you do? Not stop motion, but when you
Time
do
lapse.
time lapse, there we go. So if you go like watch like nighttime plane fly lapses, I'm gonna pull this up on screen for or share it in Discord so that you can see this what I'm talking about. Let me do this, share screen. I want this screen. Okay, let me know when those who want to jump in are in and they can see what I'm showing. This is in Discord. Okay. Okay, so you see that, Travis?
Yes.
Okay, so this is just showing like where they're going, from where they're going, um, and I appreciate that person made a straight line there instead of a curve for no reason. But
Sure.
let me kind of skip it to the night sky. Okay, this is the wrong one. Give me 1 second. I gotta find the one that shows because this is all cloudy. Here we go. I think this is a good one. Let's pull this up. Okay, so this is a time lapse, obviously, of a plane flying. Okay, and and it's obviously sped up, right? Because they're actually not flying this fast. But this is what I want to kind of show you. So, or what I want you to kind of think about, I should say. Okay, so this plane is traveling again from what was that, Lebanon? Let me pull it up one more time. Oh, that was a
Lisbon,
different one.
Spain.
That was a different one. But just okay. So this is what my point is this guy is traveling, let's just say 500 miles an hour. And then it's
Right.
a time lapse film, so it's going even faster. Now
Right.
watch what I'm trying to say is that if you kept flying this picture that we see in front of us, if you kept flying straight and let's say you went from one side of the plane all the way to the other, right? Would any of these stars' positions change accordingly to your position? So what I mean is, okay, let's play this. So you can see like the stars are moving, but let's say, let me pause it real quick. Like any of these stars above his head are not going past above his head, right? Like he's not
Yeah.
going under some stars and then seeing
Okay.
new stars.
Okay.
He's just like in that picture, like right here, look, those stars are not changing minus the fact that they're moving.
I
So if
gotcha.
he kept going straight and straight and straight, would do you think that stars would start passing over his head and all of a sudden he'd see new constellations? Or do you think if he went from, let's say, from literally one side of the light to the dark, like let's say you could travel almost instantly from one side of it to the other and you could still keep your same position looking straight, do you think these stars would change when you got to the other side?
Yeah. That's crazy. It's wild.
So it's almost like what we're seeing here, like a lot of people give the example of like it's almost like like they're attached to the dome, and the dome spinning, and so for the stars are spinning. But what's interesting to me when I see this is if let's say we're looking like pick a constellation here. And fly straight to it, you're going to keep seeing that constellation. It's not going to go up above your head and you're going to go past it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that makes me think that the mechanism of whatever it is of how the stars switch from one to the other, because like I had used the zodiac symbol real quick. Let me pull this up, guys, and show you what I'm talking about. Zodiac dial images. So how I feel like a lot of flat earthers believe. Let's pull this one up with the pictures, and go copy image link. Just so pull it up with just this. Oh, that's really small though. Okay, so anyways, so let's just say, let's pick a better one. So let's just say like for whatever reason, this is like where South America is. Okay, so South America right now, if they look to the south, they see Cancer. Well, in 6 months, when they look south, they will see um, Capricorn.
Capricorn.
And if you were to fly from, let's say, wherever this was on the Earth, directly across, like let's say that there was a straight line of light and dark, and you could
Uh,
travel from one side of this plane to the other, would you all of a sudden would all of a sudden you start seeing Capricorn?
right.
And I don't think you would. I think whatever celestial object is out there, everyone is seeing that at the same time. Because, like right now, if I look outside, Orion Belt's going to be right there. Now, if I headed dead towards Orion's Belt, I personally don't believe there's anything I could do to make Orion's Belt start going above my head and me see new constellations.
Right.
So, just an interesting thought that I thought I'd
Yeah.
show to you because I don't know. I think a lot of people just see this circle and they're like, oh, if we're in Cancer, that means, let's say, Australia's in Capricorn. I don't think it works like that. But I don't have any way really of proving it other than trusting someone else's
So if you
word type of thing.
right, so if you think about it, then like I have I can't remember what my stargazing app is, but tomorrow morning when it's daytime, if I got my app out and aimed it at the sky, it would tell me that Capricorn is there, or I'm just saying, or anyone,
Yeah, totally.
because it's in the daytime. So when the sky is rotating, when night comes around, then I'm going to see Cancer because it's dark and Cancer's out. But when it's daytime, you can't see the stars. So, but they also know that if the sun is in Capricorn, the only way that you can know that the sun is in Capricorn is if you yourself have mapped out the sky and you know that these 12 constellations map out the year. So that, again, I'm not an astronomer, so I
Hmm.
don't know what the details are in terms of how much information and how long it would take you. Like if you did that from scratch, right?
Hmm.
How long would it take you to map out and be able to say, okay, even though it's daytime and it's March, I know which constellations are in front of me right now.
Well, and that's why I kind of brought up the example of if you crossed it, like let's say there was a straight line of delineation between light and dark. Like we don't know that, right? Like we can guess and assume and say, oh well, like if you do it like this, it causes this like circle instead of straight line. But what my point is if there was a straight line and you could travel that, are you saying that you would, and do you think and I don't know, like I don't think there's a right answer, like well there is but I don't know it, like if you were in Cancer and then you traveled that straight line still in darkness, like directly at it, you think all of a sudden that, let's say, Capricorn, whatever one you're seeing now
So,
would turn into the next one?
okay, right. So listen. So if where I'm at right now in Maryland, it's dark, but if I flew east into the next day and I got to the point to where I was in daylight, but I flew in a straight 180 degree from my position. I just
Hmm.
flew in a straight line. So I left Cancer behind me. I would fly into the geographical area where Capricorn would be, but it's daytime and I can't see it.
Hmm. I definitely want to do more research about that, but just from what I was kind of showing you on those, of the night flights or whatever, like these
Yeah.
guys are traveling hundreds of miles, and
Right.
the position of the stars that they are changing, right? But the plane's position relative to those stars are not.
No, I get it. I get it. Yeah, it's really interesting. I'm watching it right now. I found the video that you were showing.
Yeah. So if you
That
just
is,
like boom, went straight at it, it doesn't seem like it would all of a sudden change into different stars. It would be like the exact same stars. So it makes me think that it's not like a circle as it's kind of how I showed it depict, that it's
yeah.
almost like circles within circles. It's like it's a shape that we can't comprehend, and we look up and it looks like a dome, and I do believe there's a firmament, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's just like a and I like the example that you gave, but I'm not necessarily think that it's just layers upon layers, which it totally could be, but it's like I don't know. I don't know how to explain it other than that
Yeah.
it seems
Yeah.
that the stars would not change no matter how fast you went towards them, other than the fact that they're changing.
Huh.
But anyways, yeah. Sorry about that. That was
No, no.
totally
Interesting. Yeah.
oh, appreciate
Very
that.
interesting. Yeah.
All right, anyone else got some things, or should we kind of get more onto what we had talked about before?
Well, I
Or
love the thought, but can I read? I'll try to keep it to just one verse, um, if y'all don't mind, right quick. But it's sort
what
of
verse?
it's Second Kings 23, chapter 23, verse 5, and this is when the king decided or found out that keeping the Torah was important and everything, so he wanted to change his ways and all the nation. He commanded Hilkiah, the high priest. But anyway, in verse 5 it says, then he removed the idolatrous priest whom the kings of Judah had ordained to burn incense on the high priest in the cities of Judah and in the palaces all around Jerusalem, and those who burned incense to Baal, to the sun, to the moon, to the constellations, and to all the host of heaven. Basically, he's he sent his, I guess, army, and I have not read the whole chapter, so I can't put this into complete context. But basically, when he found out that Yah was real and he needed to change his ways, he did it like I think everybody's commanded to, just like Yeshua did in the temple. He didn't go in there and pat all the priests on the back and everything. He turned the tables over and threw them out.
Yeah. Yeah, and we see this, and I had kind of said before about how all the ancient, like mystery religions and cultures and stuff had all of these, did those exact things. They burned incense to Baal or one of his many names. They worshiped the sun and moon and the constellation and the stars. And we can kind of see what those type of societies were also into, i.e., drinking of blood and human sacrifice and all those great things out there.
Now, I will say that there's a fine line between understanding them and following them, basically.
Oh,
I
totally. You can't unintentionally, give us burn incense to Baal. It has to be in an intention for sure.
but I think a lot of people do it unknowingly.
Totally. Yeah, they're
But
participating in things that they don't know, or they have something else tied to it. I.e., Christmas is a good example.
oh yeah, prime example. But I wasn't meaning to like say it in bad terms. I'm saying that it's nothing wrong with studying the stars and what they do and how they act, because that's how we're going to tell time. We don't even know what time we're in now. Some people say 1,000 years have been stolen from us. I doubt that, and I don't believe that, but there is that possibility, and we don't know. But I think studying the stars and how they act and all that stuff could give us a pretty close idea if we use them for the right way, But like
Okay.
King and Second King says, we got to stop worshiping these constellations. We got to worship Yahuwah.
Hey guys,
Hey,
real
Vader.
quick, I'm sorry, Nick. I'm gonna take off. My mom and I are gonna play cribbage online, so thanks so much for letting me hang out with you guys. It was great to meet all of you. And if I'm able to do it again next time, I'll.
Yeah,
I want
absolutely, dude. You're
I want to
able to
ask you
join us.
about when you're here next time. Thank you for joining us. I want to ask you about your take on the 24-hour midnight Antarctica sunlight, but you got to go. So
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Nick.
All right, well,
Brother, it was a
everyone,
pleasure.
go check out The Plain Truth. I'm gonna pull up his channel real quick. Go check it out. He has a lot of cool different things about the place we live. And talks and things like that. So yeah, go check him out. And give him a sub. So anyways, yeah, thanks for being here, Travis. You're more than welcome anytime. And go have fun with your mother. Have a great night, man.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, brother. Shalom.
All right.
Shalom
Take
to you.
care.
Awesome. Well, that was super duper interesting. That actually gave me quite a bit to think about. And you were kind of talking, we've talked about this before, Anthony, how when it comes to, enclosed cosmology, it kind of gets bothersome because it's like, we've already heard it all. But then I feel like we just were really shown something that we haven't heard before. I never even thought about doing that. And excuse me, everyone. And it sounds like he didn't either. He actually accidentally stumbled upon it. That's very interesting.
Absolutely, and just like what Crow 777 stumbled upon, and then Sean got a hold to it, and then of course he gonna test everything with Scripture, and it wasn't long he put that presentation out there as to what it may be. I'm like, well, that's what everything means now. I could put a timeline on it at that point.
Mm-hmm.
talking about the second son.
The second sun and what's causing the eclipse, what we're actually looking at. It's pretty amazing. And what I liked about it is he used Scripture to show all this.
Yeah, I
But
actually
Agreed
want
to
to.
have that guest back on.
Oh yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, I would love to get Travis on and he and I just discuss certain things at some point. That dude is very knowledgeable. He and I don't see eye to eye on some things, but it's nothing that would be detrimental to our friendship or nothing like that. But I would love to just go over some stuff with him when he had more time or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. I wanted to show something real quick. I was kind of talking to him. I was talking to him about it. I was about that sphere. I want to show y'all that haven't seen it. If you want to see it while I'm playing it, you can just join my live on ECF. Those that can. But I'm gonna play this real quick, and I want to talk about it real quick.
Fuller. His idea went something like this. Make a sphere 1 mile in diameter to completely enclose the air inside. Warm that air by a few degrees Celsius, and then sit back and let the whole sphere float up high. That's it. Did you notice that I didn't mention rockets or some big fans or sails, etc.? That's because the sphere will float just because of buoyancy.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm not even showing it. My bad. Let me try that again.
A mile-wide floating city.
A what? A what? A mile-wide floating city? Huh. Interesting.
Buckminster Fuller. His idea went something like this. Make a sphere 1 mile in diameter to completely enclose the air inside. Warm that air by a few degrees Celsius, and then sit back and let the whole sphere float up high. That's it. Did you notice that I didn't mention rockets or some big fans or sails, etc.? That's because the sphere will float just because of buoyancy. The maximum buoyancy force from the air at the sea level at 20 degrees Celsius is 1.2 kilograms per cubic meter. This means that the air can lift the maximum of 1.2 kilograms per cubic meter. The average volume of a hot air balloon is around 3000 cubic meters. If we were to use this formula, we can calculate that if we were to heat up the air inside of the envelope by 100 degrees Celsius, the density difference that would occur would allow us to lift 760 kilograms with that balloon. But a mile-wide sphere contains way more air than ordinary hot air balloons. 700,000 times more to be exact. 2.5 million tons of air. Since we have more air to work with, we don't have to drastically increase the temperature for us to have a liftoff. We can increase it by just a few degrees. If we were to use the same formula as before, we would see that this sphere could lift 24,000.
Are people saying that they can't see the like I see that y'all couldn't see the video. I changed that. Can y'all hear it? Okay, you can hear it. Okay, thank you.
Tons if we were to increase the air temperature by just 5 degrees.
Does anyone in live chat know what 24,000 tons equals? There's 24,000 tons and there's 2,000 pounds per ton. What's 24,000 tons? How much weight is that? Has anyone got the calculator out real quick? What's 2,000? I think a ton is 2,000 pounds, right? 24,000 tons. How much weight could that mile-wide sphere lift just based off buoyancy? Just increasing the temperature inside, the air inside that by 5 degrees.
Yeah, so that's all I really wanted to share. Those that didn't see but have seen that episode, basically what he's talking about is he's talking about this equation where if you take like a contained space, like let's say a hot air balloon, and then you increase its temperature inside that balloon, well then that's where you get lift. But that's with a very small volume. If you then basically expand that to a mile, then you just need to heat up the temperature inside just a little bit in order to get that same effect. And so the reason why I think that's really interesting is back to the black sun is this black sphere or whatever it is. It totally looks like a sphere or at least a circle. Um, so him adding in that kind of aspect where we can see reality and how you could physically get something that big and that much weight up into the air. I just think that's really interesting. What are y'all's thoughts about it? Oh, I'm sorry. I accidentally muted. Oh, I muted y'all because y'all were talking during the video, but let me undo that. Sorry, guys. All right, y'all are good to go.
Yeah, would there be a way where you would get inside that thing, or like how can you practically use that like being in that sphere?
Because you could have like if you had a mile like a mile wide sphere, right? That's a lot of area. You could build houses, you could you could do a whole bunch of stuff. You could literally have and then he ties it into Mount Olympus. He ties it into Mount Muru. He ties it into how we in all these different cultures into Laputa, which is the story about this floating island. And it's so interesting because he does anyone know what the evil one is the king of or the angel of? He's the
Some
angel of
say
the air.
music. Oh,
Well,
there, yeah.
yeah, he's of the air. And so the fact that he could have mastery over the air is very interesting to me. And then we look at the iconography of most gods, like at least in Samaria, they're always depicted as having wings. And then in other cultures where they're not depicted of having straight up wings, they're depicted as having some type of mechanism, whether it be the the sandals of Hermes or whatever, to have flight.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think that makes a lot of sense. Definitely with the shape of this object and the fact that we don't see the shape. This shape is literally that circle is nowhere to be seen until it starts taking the sun away.
Hey, can y'all hear me now?
Yeah, you're great.
Okay, I couldn't hear y'all a while ago. I didn't know if y'all could hear all that rain or not. It was flooding. Um, I kind of caught the tail end of that, but yeah, he's the prince of the air, like you said, and depicted with wings. I forget where, but one of them depicts him as a six-winged serpent. Um, but could that be? Well, hold on. Let me before I get to that point. We might have to change our little video. Now we're gonna have to make the top of the Tower of Babel flying around. Could that possibly be the top portion of the Tower of Babel?
Well, if at least you go with scripture, it says the top portion, the top third of it was strewn around. The middle part was destroyed with fire, and the bottom part sank into the earth. So I guess unless there's another portion, but I don't think the point of the tower was to necessarily a craft. I think it was literally they were trying to build a tower into the heaven. I also don't think they realize how, like in my picture I'm showing you, like they were not even close to doing it. Now, obviously, I'm not saying the logo is a one-to-one representation of what Earth is. Like Gleason's map definitely has problems, but I think it's the closest thing we have currently, personally. But what my point is I don't think that they even were close. I think they were barely off the surface of where the firmament ends. But it is an interesting idea, like, or at least maybe that was a place where that thing could dock. You know what I mean? Like could sit on top of it when it came around or whatever, or if it just sit there. And then he did show us a lot. Sean showed us a lot of different examples with bald topped towers. So add a ball on top of this tower, and you get that same iconography.
Well, maybe not the top of the Tower of Babel, or wonder if they were building the Tower of Babel to get to whatever that was. I'm not real sure just what it is, but what about like NASA? What if that's where they claim to be going, or what if that's what they're trying to get to as well, to whatever city that is flying around up there? And could there be more? Certain parts of the script of the Bible tells us that stars are angels. What if they're just going home, turning the light on?
Well, I just watched a video on the Hindenburg and Zeppelins, and they actually didn't fly on helium. They flew on static electricity or electromagnetic electricity. And the Empire
Just
State
like
Building
spiders.
was like what? Well, the Empire State Building was a fueling station. They have pictures of it docking and connecting the front of the Zeppelin to the Empire State Building, and they say that it would refuel on the static electricity or the electromagnetic current. And the whole psyop about the Hindenburg going down in flames was all a setup.
Of
It was
course,
really
that was because helium is helium is too abundant, it's too cheap, it's too easy to use. It put fuel companies out of business. They couldn't have driven the price up on basically every single thing that we we consume just by fluctuating the price of oil.
Well,
Yeah,
they also said that prohibition was because they had cars that ran on alcohol, methane alcohol. And part of prohibition was to eliminate that and bury that technology also.
Well,
There's a lot
and
of things they're hiding.
well, so I was actually talking about this the other day. It was actually a while ago, but it's because you brought up Zeppelins, which is super interesting. So with the Zeppelins or whatever, I always thought like, oh, look, they have like cruises where you get into the ocean and they take you around, and then they have like tours where like you get in a tour bus and you tour around, you stay in hotels. I was like, why don't they have any type of air thing? You think you could have like this big airship, and that literally like completely where Zeppelins weren't even in my mind. And I was thinking about this, and I was like, and then it came to my mind, like, why don't they have this with Zeppelins? That seems like if you could literally like think about this, when like a bus, not a bus, sorry, when a cruise ship goes out, like they could literally have super bad waves. There's like tons of, I feel like, bad things that could happen. And I guess, yeah, you're in the air, so bad things could happen too. But I feel like you could rise above, let's say, the weather patterns and not have to deal with the winds and stuff as an example. Now, if they put the same amount of, let's say, engineering from what they had back, let's say, during the times of Zeppelins into or sorry, back in the time of Zeppelins into cars, and then look at where we are now with cars, don't you think they could have done with the same thing with the Zeppelin? Absolutely. But the thing with the Zeppelin is, like, I think that type of travel in Antarctica would be the best, because you're not having to touch on the ground, you're not having to cut through the ice. You can go up, right? Like, you're already going to be heated anyways, and then if you're using, let's say, heat to rise it like a balloon, you're saying static electricity. I don't really get how that works, but we can talk about that in a second.
It flows off of the ether,
Oh, okay.
and all the electromagnetic comes out of the North Pole, so it rotates around the inside of the dome like the sun does.
So it like gets carried
And
out, but then they can have like
yeah,
propellers to
and
change their direction.
they said that Zeppelin travel was actually safer than air travel.
Yeah, totally. And
And
yeah, exactly. So that's what my point is.
they had millions and millions of hours clocked without any accidents.
Has anyone ever here seen like the Disney movie Up? So if you haven't, in that there's literally like this explorer who explores the world in a Zeppelin. Think about how much of a better travel to let's say, like, what if you could take one of those, and you're saying it goes around the ether, so you could literally just stock it up with food, put it on the ice wall, and let it just drift all the way around. you
Yeah.
you could have like cameras on it and be just taking pictures of, almost like literally 360 degrees around you, and you could map out everything.
Well, that's
Dude,
what that's what their satelloons are. They're filled with helium, and they literally float around above the cloud levels.
Yeah, so we could literally
And they're
like,
clocking everything,
like
and they're documenting everything. They know time. I actually watched a video on time study. All the old Tatarian buildings actually had the holes in them. They were for the sun to come through, and they were calculating the sun, and they were actually calculating the time, and that's how they added 1,000 years to our timeline through all that deception. And the Jesuits did a whole study on time for about 100 years, using the sun charts, using the stars, using all kinds of high technology for their time, but to get an accurate timeline to know exactly where the sun clocks, they had to take them down because people knew the exact time of day. They knew the time we were in. So they had to take them all down to actually cover up and put us in a fake timeline. It's so wild, some of the stuff I watched in the last month.
Yeah, it's that you said it right. It's wild. Most of that 1,000 year stuff is a lot of hearsay. However, they do make some good points in it. I don't know if we've actually lost 1,000 years or gained 1,000 years, and honestly, it's not going to make me just roll over and die one way or another. But what was you just talking about the Tartarian buildings?
Yeah, well, they had holes in them every certain amount, and the sun would shine through them, and they had this long pathway that they would clock. And
Their technology was supreme to ours. In other words, are different. That's
it was
why
different. It wasn't so. It was more connected to the realm we live in.
well, that's what I mean by technology. They use something different than what we use today, and I
Yeah,
think we're so far removed from that greater technology or that more efficient technology than what than we can even imagine. And yet people they tell us, oh, and our technology is improving. I can't even get out of town and use my cell phone anymore. And uh, which president was it to talk to the moon on a landline? And we're supposedly getting better with technology. Um,
well, all the technology was connected to the realm. That's why it was so much better. It was cleaner. It was pure. It was
and
free, and it was all
that
connected to
it,
the ether and to this
it's
realm.
part. It's the free part that scares them. That's the same thing with the Zeppelins. That's the same thing with
Of course, they don't
everything
want
else.
nothing free.
If they let that stuff get known, like if the general public knew about most of the stuff that they're hiding from us, their technology, so to speak, we would have already uh, disproven everything about what the quote unquote they tell us.
Well, Tesla rediscovered it, and that's why they buried it because they didn't want to get J.P. Morgan and the Rothschilds and uh, the oil mongers, that they didn't want that technology getting back out again. That's why they buried all of his work.
Of
I've
course,
almost
He
even thought about that
rediscovered.
they
He
could
actually
probably.
rediscovered.
I bet that they could probably even have. Let's just say like dams make sense of how they make power, but let's say they have other power plants, or let's say they have them at the same place, but what if they also have these machines running and it's connected to the grid, and we're paying for electricity that they're getting for free? That's like the most profitable thing I've ever heard. If you can make electricity for free and then charge people for it.
that's exactly what they're
They
doing.
could be doing it. They could
No,
be. We don't know.
that's exactly
You don't know, Anthony. You don't know exactly, but they
I
could be doing that. You don't know for a
know
fact,
for a
but they
fact.
could be doing it. I wouldn't put it by them.
And guess what? Not only are they charging me for free energy, I'm turning around and giving it right back to them. It's
Well, that's
called
why they make solar panels so barbaric and so large, and they draw out little current. They have the technology to make it so much cleaner and store more energy. They just don't want to release it to us because it would be free.
yeah,
And then we would have control. They don't want us to have any control. It's all about fear and control.
that's right. And look, here I am sitting in my living room, and I've hadn't talked about it a whole lot, but I'm pretty sure I've come up with a device that will be a perpetual energy free, perpetual energy that fuels itself. You never have to fuel it. I mean, of course, you might have to fill up a bucket of water a time or two, but I think I've done come across something that I believe is going to work. I'm building a model for it now, and if it, well, let's just say when it works, um, this is just something I've come up with. Sitting, I think the vision was given to me. I've got it in my mind. I'm just trying to put it in perspective. But I think Yah gave me these plans, and I'm just trying to get this built as soon as possible. But even if I do, it's so primitive compared to what technologies that are actually out there that people know about and they use every day and not even realize it most of the time. And it's never even heard of in the general public.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, not to cut off the conversation too much, but we only have around 30 minutes left, and I feel like we actually didn't really talk much about other than me going over kind of what we've been talking about. I feel like we really didn't talk. We touched it here and there. Um, but I kind of want to talk about that before we wrap it up. So from me, I guess I'll be pretty quick. I think that the information that we recently covered, especially with Nimrod, I think that's extremely important because I think his role in this story is not over. And I know a lot of other people believe that as well, but that's not really the point. The reason why I think it's so important is because we've been showing you the other side of it, right? Like what type of behavior those that aren't in relationship with the Father have. Like what type of rituals and we talked about the temples and all the debauchery that happened there and the death of innocent people. We talked about Saturnalia and how they would literally pick, innocent woman and man, and they would treat them like kings, and they would let them do whatever they wanted to. But at the end of this celebration, they would be sacrificed, and that was a way for those people to put all their sins onto another person and kill that person, and then all of a sudden their sins were resolved. And we know that those that believe in the true Messiah, Yeshua HaMashiach, that didn't happen. That indeed that behavior it was not correct. But I feel like every time in Scripture, the Father does this quite often, is He'll show us kind of the bleakness of it, the darkness of it, um, but or give us a stern warning saying, "Hey, you better be careful for these reasons." But I feel like He always follows that up with building you up by showing you how those he gives you promises and hope and faith and all these amazing things after that. And so though I enjoy talking about Nimrod and those the ancient history, the civilizations and cultures, my favorite thing to talk about is about the Father and the many blessings that we get to see throughout Scripture. And we've seen it all obviously up till now, but I feel like this is like this is the father of us all is Father Abraham. We all know the song, Father Abraham had many sons had Father Abraham. I am one of them, and so are you. So let's all praise the Lord. So yeah, I'm super excited. We're going to be starting to get into Nimrod's contemporary. They did live at the same time. The city in which Abraham was called out of was a part of the empire that Nimrod had created, and he was finding a person that would follow his will and be set apart from all the other nations and have an intimate relationship with him, in which he could teach them his behavior, and bless them through it. So I'm super stoked about that personally.
As am I. Yeah,
So
I
so
can't wait
Yeah,
into
it's awesome.
Abraham.
Oh yeah, and that's like from here, I feel like we got so much, like just all this stuff. I feel like now, if for the most part, minus special guests, is going to be this uplifting thing. It's going to be, look at these beautiful relationships that the father has had with these men. And yes, there obviously are downs and ups, a roller coaster throughout it, where people choosing to do or not do the behavior of the father. But I'm so excited to just go through this and kind of develop that and show how like he has this consistent desire to have men seek after his heart. And I think Abraham, out of a lot of men before him and up to him, was one of the best.
Yeah, and we get to get into the book of Joshua some on this quote unquote series, but it's going to take a little while to cover Abraham and stuff. So we definitely got to get into the book of Joshua some on this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super stoked. What are your thoughts, Dara? You haven't talked much tonight. I know you're much of a you're more of a listener most of the time, but any thoughts from you? Oh, he may not be available right now. What about you, Frankie? What do you think about it?
I think it's going to be interesting, uh, especially if you go into the life of Abraham, how he left his father's house, how he destroyed the idols, and bring that side to it. How he was a type of Moshe. He was a Moses type. How he was spared
Mm-hmm.
from slaughter of innocent children. Should be interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Alrighty. Well, um, we got about 20 minutes left. Was there stuff that you wanted to bring up, Anthony, specifically about the stuff we've kind of got over? Your thoughts kind of moving forward from where we've been?
Well, I kind of would like to discuss a little bit about how our opinions on what happened with the Tower of Babel, how it could have caused the quote unquote reset, the Great Reset.
Oh, totally. I think, well, it tells you that a third of the structure, that means the base of it, which was huge, sank into the earth. It was swallowed up by the earth. So to me, that goes in line with what we see in all these different civilizations all across the plane, where we have these kind of, you know, different or unique or set apart buildings compared to the other ones around it. We have the technology of like a little building that like the people at the time are driving riding home to in their buggy and carriage, right next to this building that's crazy. I think personally that the Tartarian idea is correct, but in the sense that indeed there was a mud flood, but I think that event was the same event that took the Tower of Babel out, and that's why all the buildings that have all of these, for me, like kind of occult origins, boom, it all makes sense to me because it's almost one and the same. Those are at least my thoughts.
Well, those are pretty much my thoughts too. I didn't know if anybody had found any opposition to it because I'm kind of up for debate on it. This is just kind of something
Well,
that came across to me. Something it just dawned on me, so to speak. Uh,
Well, from some of the research I've done, uh, it seems like it was a electromagnetic overflow, a power surge, like an electrical storm that caused a molecule fusion, which actually caused the mud flood, where the ground got so loose and that building sunk and it raised up, and actually some type of they had mud storms too back in that time also.
Well,
So
could that
there's that theory on it too, that it could have been just like a giant dust ball or a mud flood or a mud storm, which caused actually they're saying 20 feet of mud buildup from some of the
some
research I've looked at.
some places there were?
Yeah,
Um,
that's an awful lot of mud.
Now we can put our today's mindset to use and call it like a electromagnetic storm or something like that. However, wouldn't that also be just kind of like, well, that's the power of Yahuwah. That's what he can do. And I'm not saying that's not the method used. I'm just saying what caused that chain reaction. For example, uh, they tried to come up with an atomic bomb for years and years, never could do it. So they just hoaxed the whole thing by putting TNT in a city that supposedly, I don't know this for certain, but supposedly business were open the next day in both of those places in Japan.
Well, they have ghost cities in China and Japan. With that, they have fully built cities that are completely
That's
empty.
it's no, it's South Korea and China. Japan
Yeah,
doesn't have
it's
this, but
insane.
yeah.
And I think and that last bombing we had, I think it was last year, either in 2021.
Are you talking about in Beirut?
I think so. Yeah, I have a feeling it was a ghost city. It was a stage psyop to make it seem like there was a conflict, a war, and
No, so the Beirut bombing, that's like actually it's actually crazy because that port was bombed. It helped a certain state within that area that claims to be a
yeah,
certain people group, but that
exactly.
it is a real place, and it really did mess up. Plus, I don't think that was no, like, people
Ghost
definitely
city,
died in that. Yeah, for sure.
right?
That city has
Sure.
been there for thousands and thousands of years. It's kind of like Damascus, where we even have this
Yeah, but
same name in the
I thought
Bible.
the area that got bombed was like an empty factory.
No, so
From what I seen,
it was
it
on
was
the
an empty
harbor.
factory, and it was an empty factory that it was staged.
Yeah, I'm not saying they didn't
That
necessarily didn't stage the factory, like the explosion itself. I'm not saying that's all legit.
right.
I'm just saying,
I'm
like,
sure there was casualties because there was people around that area,
oh yeah,
but
dude, do you see
I
some of
think
the
the initial
videos? The
bombing
people
was an
that were
empty.
like miles
Yeah, yeah,
away, it
yeah,
was blowing them
yeah,
through their house.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm not saying there wasn't casualties, but I think the initial warehouse was empty.
Oh, totally. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if they staged it to that degree. I'm just saying it's not like a ghost
Right.
city as an example of like a China where they do that for like
They
a
literally,
GDP thing because they just put these things together and so they can say like, okay, see, we built all these cities, we spent all this money, so we're worth more, but it's like a cheat. It's almost like cheating on your taxes type of thing.
yeah, but they have overcrowding in their populated cities when they have these empty cities that with traffic lights and fully functional cities.
Oh yeah, totally. They have shopping
It's
malls that
insane.
are completely like the
Completely
fountain,
empty.
yeah, completely empty, not a single person in there.
But the traffic lights work. I watched a video of two guys driving through on a motorcycle. They
Hmm.
were stopping at the traffic lights, but there was nobody in the city.
Yeah,
And they filmed in a couple abandoned buildings.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they definitely do that.
They,
I think that's like a financial thing though.
yeah,
Now it
they
could
were making money off of it. So
yeah, not to say it's not connected. I think it kind of is connected because they could totally do those things. But at least to me, when it comes to Tartaria, the sinking of this huge tower, the force that it would take, or what would, like, the whole ground would have to liquefy in order for that to happen. And what's interesting to me about that is at least its location, and how a lot of the areas around there are geographically important in history, and also have a lot of buildings that have disappeared or supposedly sink beneath the sands or whatever. But what's kind of weird is when you look at these buildings, you're like, wow, the ground level was way different back then, or literally it's not that mud flood came in and covered the buildings, at level. It could also be that they literally sunk under the ground, right? So it would seem like, oh, why is there an interest going down? Well, because there used to be the ground used to be here, not here. So
I
yeah,
see what you're saying.
yeah. So, but yeah, I just, I think, Sean has obviously more of an intricate, you know, uh, taking it, because we kind of take big strides as we're going through Scripture, and of course, as our, like, quote unquote second season eventually comes out, whenever we decide to do that. Um, we'll kind of restart and kind of go back down the path that we've already taken, but get more focused into it.
Excuse me.
But yeah, so as just right now, we kind of skim these things, and we also want to bring up these topics to people so that they'll have a desire to go and go and research it. And like Travis is a perfect example of the plain truth. He was doing something just to get a panorama, and he ended up, stumbling onto something that people weren't necessarily aware of, and being able to share that puzzle piece. So, like me, definitely that has me interested. I'm going to go look into that and see. I would love to kind of try to repeat that and see if I can't figure something out different. But that's what this whole table is about, is come together and to talk about these things, to give us that fire, and that, that feed our spirit, to make us want to look into these things more, and to dive down into the Father more. So yeah, it's so awesome. So yeah, everyone, go do this. Go look into these things. Come to the Discord. The link for the Discord is in the description. Now, if you've never used Discord, if you do most of your your YouTube watching on the phone, you can download it on your phone. And then if you do most of it, let's say on a computer, you can download Discord on your computer. Now, it has a bit of a learning curve to it, but there are tons of people within the chat that would love to help you, figure it out, so that you can join us. And in the Discord, we have conversations all throughout the week, voice chats, text chats, and different sections where we can share things about, things that are interesting in us. That we're interested in to others, and have a conversation. So yeah, check out the Discord link in the description. We'd love to have you there. And then, as always, share, like, comment, subscribe. All those things really help us. It helps us keep growing. The last time I looked, we at on our main channel at Enclosed Cosmology, we are at 372. So that's 372 puzzle pieces there, and we want more. And even more so, we want you to bring your information to the table and share it with us. So you're always welcome to do that as well. But anyways, before I go too much on, I guess we're about 10 minutes out, a little 8 minutes, 7 minutes out. So we're gonna start wrapping it up, and saying our goodbyes. So before I do that, I'm gonna pull up our comments from the last video, and then while I'm doing that, if y'all have any kind of last things that y'all want to talk about before we do our goodbyes, now would be the perfect time.
Well, I just want to say thank you to everybody for praying when that storm came through a while ago. It got a little hairy around here for a few minutes. I think I can see every star in the sky right now, though. But thank y'all for y'all's prayers.
That's good, Anthony.
I also want to thank Aaron Sampson and Take on the World TV for putting that video of Rob Skiba up tonight. I was sitting on the front row, and I tell you, it was just like I had never heard it before. Great job over there, and much love to Take on the World TV. If anybody hasn't heard of them, check them out. They have lots of really good, heartfelt shows on there. Anyway, much love. Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Hey, I said before we say goodbye to everyone. I'm just joking. But yeah, here, let me share these with you real quick. I did pull them up. I just got to get it ready. And all right. Pull these up for y'all on the screen. All right, so this is in the episode 12 Talmud. I asked everyone a question. As we do every stream, we'll always go back and read the comments, and for your voice to be heard if you're not seen in the chat, but you kind of want something to say, go ahead and do that. And right now, there's really not that many people doing it, so you'll for sure get your comment seen, and I'll read it no matter what it says, as long as it's appropriate. So, anyways, I asked the question, what do y'all think about Christmas and whether or not we should celebrate it? If you want to reply to that, go ahead. And then, oh my gosh. Everyone calls her Marcia, but it's Marcia. Marcia says, "I got here late, but enjoyed it. I enjoyed our conversation in Discord." Yeah, after every stream, we go back to Discord and we just talk about whatever. And that's a place where obviously YouTube cannot, GrabblerTube cannot Discord, cannot get us in trouble for talking about it or censor us. And then Anthony Brother said, "I don't know, Vader Bear. It gets much better than this. We may start to lose folks in contests. Awesome intro, though, brother. Appreciate you, brother, as always." And then we had another one. Let's pull this up, scroll down. All right. And I said the same thing over there. And then Moonglow had some, it looks like constructive criticism. Now, we're not perfect. I think this is our maybe 20th stream, so we're still learning. We're still getting better. So, but we do appreciate any comments. So Moonglow said, "Thank you to the gentleman concerned that his locating the scripture was taking too long. This is what I do before presenting the material: locate each scripture and bookmark it. At the top of each bookmark, write the reference. It is marking. If you want, you can also number the scriptures." I think that's all it says, right? Am I missing something?
Corrected it, Mia, and I think
Oh, it
it's a
says,
wonderful.
if you want to,
Yeah.
you can also, if you want to. Sorry.
Sorry, I thought you were stuck.
No, it's like missing some of it. Okay, there we go. At the top of each bookmark, you can write the reference to the marking. If you want, you can also number the bookmarks according to the order you want to present them. Boom, no page flipping. Have a nice day. Awesome. Appreciate you. And thank you for putting those scriptures up there, too. So awesome. All right. Well, thank you for those comments. I'll go ahead and say my goodbyes, or let Anthony say all of his goodbyes, and then we'll go from there. Go ahead, Anthony.
Well, goodbye again. Sorry I got mixed up. I thought you were pulling something up, and we were supposed to tell everybody bye, but bye again. Shabbat shalom, everybody. And I wish I was that organized to where I could bookmark everything in the book. I've got so many different bookmarks in there. That's what's so difficult to flip through. If I take all the other bookmarks out, then I'm going to be lost on my other studies. That's the only issue I have there. But thank you very much. Well,
Yeah.
Shabbat shalom.
Yeah, Shabbat Shalom indeed. Awesome. All right, if you can hear me, Daryl, you've been silent tonight, but that's okay. I know you're mostly a listener and throw some stuff out there once in a while. But if you're there and you'd like to say goodbye to everyone, go ahead.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, it was great listening. A lot going on. You guys really covered a lot about the stars and stuff. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I just really didn't have much to add to that. But hey, thanks, and Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Y'all have a good night.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'll say my goodbyes and throw it off to Frankie as we usually do for the end. And say, everyone, I really do appreciate and thank you, dear brothers and sisters, for coming and supporting us and watching us. You know, subscribing, commenting, all that stuff. It really does help us, and we just want to grow the family. We want to be able to have this table where people who have different thoughts but are still brothers and sisters in our Messiah, in Yeshua Mashiach, in Jesus Christ, to come together and still love on one another and still support and motivate one another, and be able to have this table where we can at least agree that Scripture is correct and the place we live in is not what we've been told. And you know, it's definitely been edifying and filling to me for my spirit to meet these men and to walk with them and to have these people consistently come and show up and be in chat and leaving comments and all that stuff. It really does you know, motivate me to in that spiritual level to continue pressing on and continue showing in the ways that I can how much the Father and Son do adore us. But other than that, guys, I love y'all so much. I hope y'all have a great rest of your week. I hope you have a great next week leading into this new year, and many blessings in the will of the Father. So thank you once again, and I'll throw it off to my boy Frankie.
Well, I just hope everybody has a blessed new year, and let's make 2022 the best year we could ever have. And I just pray that you would just stay in love, let love be your witness, and just love your neighbor as you love yourself, because that's literally what we're called to do. That's Yeshua said all the commandments are filled in love Yah with all your heart, mind, and soul, and love your neighbor as you love yourself. So when you love another and you treat others the way you want to be treated, that's making love your witness. So be prosperous and be blessed for 2022. Let's go, baby. Love is your witness.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Love is your witness. Love is your witness. Love is your witness. Let it shine on. Let it shine on. It's better to give. That's the way. It's how you live and what you say. A good deed can right a wrong, overcome evil with a song. Love is your witness. Love is your witness. Love is your witness. Let it shine on. Let it shine.